First thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to go select our spot where we're going to put our fence. So I've put rocks down on my corners, approximate. Corners are about 12 feet apart, so just to give you an idea. Then we're going to come over here. We're going to grab our netting. You just want to untie these black ropes. So I've just untied it here, and then you're just going to grab onto the post and let that netting come loose. Grab your end post, put it in near your rock. You want to make sure on the ends that these double feet are in line with your actual fence. Again, pretty close to where my rock is. And we're just going to make sure that this foot is actually turned on the inside so that it's bisecting the corner, and it just helps give that post a little bit more backbone. So now we're just going to do the same thing. And don't worry too much about getting it perfect the first time. You can come back around and you can tighten things up after. It does help to put it on a little bit of an outward angle like that. You can see, and it helps keep that top wire a little bit tighter. I'm just going to make sure that those feet are turned in. And then we're going to take our last post. We're going to go right back to our first post here. And now we're going to go back and tidy it up. One thing to note when you are pulling your posts out, try to always actually reach down and pull out down here, because otherwise your foot can pop off. Everything is just friction fit. So if it does come off, you can just slide it back on. You're going to do the exact same thing with the 164 foot net, but you might need 2 people just to make it a little easier. So something we've included in the kit is a spike that you use just for making sure that there aren't too many rocks. So especially in rocky ground, you'll want to use this. You'll just tap it in, find a hole that you can use, and then you can take your foot, measure over, make sure that you have an idea of where that other one's going to go, and then just tap it in, pull it back out, and then you'll be able to slide your foot in there and just step it in. So you'll see here we have our fiberglass posts, which are also going to be in the box. If you have a 50-foot net, there will be 6. If you have a 164, there will be 18. So you're going to put 3 snap macs on each one. These are used for ensuring that you have tight wires. What you'll notice is that on sides that are windy, you'll get a little bit of slack, and that's just from the wind working the posts and the wire. The easiest way to do this is going to be to put it on this tapered edge. You want to make sure that the long end is up when you're putting it on, and then when you're actually putting it on the wire, and your long tail is going to be down. So that'll hold the wire better so that it doesn't come off as easy. For easy adjustment of the height, you may want to use pliers, and you can just pinch those tails together, and then you can go up and down real easy. So here we have one of our fiberglass posts with our snap macs already on it, and we're just going to weave it through our fence. And then you're just going to want to take the wire and you slip it under that long tail first, and then back over that short tail. And then you're going to want to do the same on the other parts of the fence, and that will just add an extra little bit of rigidity to it. And you can even slide this right up against one of the stays, and that'll help so that if you have to, you can add more tension to the fence. So for this, you just want to select a spot that you're going to be able to reach from the outside of the fence, and you ideally want to keep it pretty close to the entrance so that you don't have to walk around your fence several times. So you're going to drive this right down to about 6 inches. That's about good there. And then slide this over. Something to keep in mind and make note of is that this will have your energizer on it. You will need to make sure that this V is facing away from the sun so that your solar panel comes off this side. So you want to slide this right down and get this bolt down so that it is grabbing onto the actual ground rod. And that'll make it so that your ground connection is complete once you've attached this to your Energizer. So for tightening this, you're gonna need a 1/2 inch wrench. So first thing you're gonna do is actually loosen off this nut, back the bolt out so that it'll slide right over that ground rod, just like that. And again, you wanna make sure that you're facing the right way. And then you want to tighten that bolt first so that you're getting a nice solid connection on the ground rod. And then we're gonna tighten that nut after. So now you're gonna want to take your Energizer, and like I said, you want to make sure that it's facing, the solar panel is facing south, and you just are gonna, you can see a slot there, you're just gonna slide that right over that bracket on the top, and you want to make sure that it sits all the way down, so there, it can get caught, but you want to make sure it's all the way down, right, so that it's resting on that top. You're gonna take your ground wire, and you're gonna wrap around the pole. You want to wrap around clockwise from the bottom. On the ground connection here, there's a hole in the post, and you're just gonna slip that wire through there, and then you're gonna tighten it up for now. You're gonna take these connections, and you're gonna put them on the corresponding ones. So green is always gonna be ground. So you just wanna take this right off. Make sure that your ground wire doesn't slip through. You can just place that on there using the eyelet and tighten it back up. Then you're going to do the same thing for the positive terminal. Good. Now you're going to take this yellow connection and go to the orange wire. And you're going to take your green connection, which is your ground, and put it to one of the green wires. Now you can test your fence to see if you have any shorts, and you simply do that by pressing the power button. Right now it's reading the voltage from the solar panel. When you click it on, it'll change to showing volts and joules. So right now we have a short on the fence. So the reason for that is because we haven't actually dealt with our connections at the ends of the fence yet. So you want to make sure that these orange and green are never touching, because you'll have a short and your fence won't work. So we'll turn our Energizer off, and then you're going to make sure that you have these connections tucked away and tidy so that they don't interfere with the fence, because if they're touching, you're going to have a short. So you can do that one of two ways. The easiest is just to wrap them around, just like this. And then you just want to take these ends and connect them. And we'll do the same thing with the green. So you go like this. And then we're just going to take these ends. And if you can work that one underneath, that's great. Just like that. And now when you turn your fence on, there shouldn't be any shorts. So now if we turn our fence back on, we can see we have voltage and we have joules. So we have 8.5 kilovolts and 0.8 joules, which is perfect. That's what we want to see. So there's two ways that you can ensure that your fence is off. One, you can just pull this connector off and then you don't have to worry about it. I wouldn't connect it to anything because you don't want to poke any holes. So you can just connect that to the ground wire. And you don't have to disconnect the ground because that won't transmit. So now we're just walking around our fence and we're noticing that there is some green vegetation that is reaching up and it is making contact with these orange wires. The orange wires in particular, you don't want any vegetation touching, but really shouldn't have any vegetation touching any wire other than this bottom green wire. So you just want to make sure, go around your fence and make sure that it's clean. There's no green vegetation touching any of the other wires. So to roll this up, the first thing you want to do is just stretch it out, and then you're just gonna take your end posts, go along, pick up each of your line posts, and try to watch for vegetation and stuff getting caught in it, and really watch your footing because you can get caught in it. And then once you have it all gathered up, the easiest way to do it for a tangle-free mess is going to actually be to lay it down and roll it from this side. And you're just going to roll it nice and tight. Make sure that you have all the pieces. And then you can take this black rope that's attached and you're just going to tie your knot back to your bundle. Is nice and secure.